padma sad Om Ahom Banjarangara Padma Sadarda Om Ahom Banjarangara Banjarangara Padma Sadarda Om Ahom Banjarangara Banjarangara Padma Sadarda Om Ahom 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 반자랑 거라 받마 서더더 마홈 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 반자랑 거라 받마 서더더 ahum banjarangara padmasadardo 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 반자를 걸어 받마서들도 마홈 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 마서들도 마홈 반자를 걸어 받마서들도 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 Banzara Gara Padma Sadarda Ahum 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 Banzara Gara Padma Sadarda padmasadarsha Ahum Banjarangara 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 Padma Sadarda Ahom 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 banjaran gara padma sadardo 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 ahom banjaran gara padma
Om Sambara Sambara Baman Saramaha Zambaba Hum Palasoha Om Sambara Sambara Baman Saramaha Zambaba Hum Palasoha Om Sambara Sambara Baman Saramaha Zambaba Hum Palasoha Om Nanta Nam Ram Jana Nanta Pam Tashiv Jobji Shana Bjipa, Sanji Chuda, Gimdana Barba, Sokan Lab, Sham Salab, Darjab, Jashi, Shod, Me, Yerabo, Salaftan and Tundurgon, Shamba, Yanwala Geta, Walla Tamba, Kala, Gomba, Jachere, Jabachan and Hambur, Tarampara, Salata, Wallatana, Simchan and Hamja, Largon, Jabba, Walla Yetsaman, Zalba, Zarabata, Walla Dame, Sansaman to be Tashi, Wallimpi, Devara, Shabab, Yelab, Sham Saladon, Jam Wallajon, Warden, Durjin, Sheri, the Wam Gumbo, Shamba, Walla Saye, Nyambo, Japan, and Namki, Nyambo, Bagam Chavakan, Dabzan, Paladurji, Parkara, the Shantan, Orva, Dawa, Revatanya, Mayeb, Shamsan, Lagnam, Tashi, what a game, Chov, Shanchabus, and Wab, Yelab, Sham Salador, and Chenadim, Tashi, Sergenia, Don John, Yellow, Kamala, and Dragaton, and so what a be a man, a bit, Jermson, a warm Jerem, Corridor, State, and Chenatam, Jib, Shamsan, and Chanam, Shote, Yellow, Choja, Deep Jedama, Garson, over, Tembi, one be the verb, Tashi, Hamo, Yelab, Shamzala, Hamba, Shim, Dim John, Timid, the verb, Mirton, and Yellow, Yellam, Corridor, Party, Bodala, Wamim, Zanam, Tuti, Tarzim, Corridor, Tantasha, Tam, Don't Durji, Janamba, Nisa get the Tashi, Pin and Jitan, Joab, get the Shams of the Lob, the Chagatamder, Shava, Sumba, Lab, Gatani, Varam, Seva, Kanajan, Dotan, Juan Pil, Samtuna, Yipjan, and Kashib de la Rapansam, so Janaka, and the Lami of Jeranjo. Ramajan and Rajarazina, so Jiji Janami, Mulan Liv Jomi, Kanabzam to the Burton and James, Jerajana, more and Adaya, Namobanga, what the Mandra Saratamratan, Tatanga Dayara, Desam Yasabadaya, Tareta, Banzer, Mahabandra Mahadan, the Bandra Mahabaya Mother, Mahabuta Tambandra Mahabudaman to Passanderman and Bandra Sarvakar Maharan, Bishudan and Bandra Swana, more and Adaya, Namobanga, what the Bandra. Banzer, Mahabandra Mahadin, the Bandra Mahabaya, Bandra Mahabuta, Bandra Mahabudaman to Passanderman and Bandra Sarvakar Maharan, Bishudan and Bandra Swana, more and Adaya, Namobanga, what the Bandra Saratamradan, Tatangata, Arahate, Samyasabadaya, Tareta, Banzirim, Mahabandra Mahadin, the Bandra Mahabaya, Bandra Mahabuta, Bandra Mahabudaman to Passanderman and Bandra Sarvakar Maharan, Bishudan and Banziriso. Malisin Chanankananja Gumjiraja Daradehe Honji Mamzadam Jam Zadala Namamani Jabjanan Chinan Jerapa Jamadanam Kurunji Nindara Shalzai Datamdo Landim Zim Shirap Yelajam Terum Tayena Chitam Chuma Bab Dagab Jedamba Teshtatab Chumadan Shizai Zolam Bagbam Jam Holajanara Jirpala the Satagab Shabji, Jitinana, Tisam Shaba, Maya Sangakan, Dage Malete Tatam Jalala, Ledan, Ayalatam Shabjo, Zambu Shurpa, Mulam, Dr. Javatam Jada Yelache, Monsamanda, Janga, the Yellow Leda of Tarbai, Jarava, Ganara, the Shamsala, the Chitana, the Yellow Sardiana, Sardi, Win Abji Pata. Tetra Chuja Nama Maliba, Tamchada Jerava Taki Kavarimo, Tetram Gapa Mazala Jemsu Nama Yanji and the Jemsu Dekan and J, Jarava and J on the Nerabjudaja, they were a Sherpa Tamchada Daki, Metawa Damba and Hawa Damba, Sulinanandam, she padim choda, Maramim Chota, Dipu Dambai, Jerva, the Talanam Chopperja, Nabza Damba, Namdam Joda. Chelaparapan Chokanji, Jerava, the Dalanam Chopperja, Cholapaganam Lamila Jachiva, Tita Jerava, Tamjalayamo, Zambo Shula, Talaput of Dagi, Jerava, Ganlab, Shamsalam Chopperja, Dochaka Jerda, Teme, Wangina, Litanga, Tantipjan, Yechija, Digpa, the Cape, Jipan, Chimchiba, Teta, Tamchalam, Daki, Sosurupsha. Shoji Jerava can dance hard on Jelanam Dam Love Dam Love Dam Doek and James Sunamakan Lion, Deta can Jis of Diera. Kanam Shop Jim Jitin and German, Shantaver and Beresanti, much of me. Gombo Teta, Daki, Tamchadalam, Korlom, Lana, Midpam, Korov good. Yangan that on a Kamsha, Teta, Lam, Doek and Lap, Hamja, Beaver. Karpajan good and Yanabji Paraya Rabjera Sovarabja Shamsalavatan Shudjam Shabada Jisa Ram Kadajam Survaya Giva Jonsala Daki Chapsarapa Tamchana Daki Shanchib Shirip Shabab Janabji Sanji Dandi Tamchalata Sachala Neva Shanchib Zenwa Chimbunam Lama Durjim Zamba Chimbunam Dalagon Shanchib Nyamburum Chijiwara Sandi Namla Japsumch Chudam Shanchib Zenwaya Sola Divjana Japsumch Shanchib Nyamburum Chijiwara Sandi Namla Japsumch Chudam Shanchib Zenwaya Sola Divjana Japsumch Shanchib Nyamburum Chijiwara Sandi Namla Japsumch Chudam Shanchib Zenwaya Sola Divjana Japsumch Jatar Munji Beshaji Shanchibatin Jelbata Shanchib Sewim Hapala Detaram Janani Patar Tivjan Dola Pandunda Shanchib Simnam Jelja Tivjanatanam Hapala and Babjanda Haparvya Chatara Munji Beshaji Shanchibatin Jepatam Shanchib Sewim Hapala Detaram Janani Patar Tivjan Dola Pandunda Shanchibisim Jelja Tivjanatanam Hapala and Babjanda Haparvya Chatarangonjim de Sharanjim Shanchibatin Jepata Shanchibisim Hapala Detaram Janani Patar Dola Pandunda Shanchibisim Jelja Tivjanatanam Hapala Rambabjanda Blava Dandi Dalsim Diva Mayet Pala Berata Tera Sanji Research Sanji Research Tanab the kitchen Jahari Tam Tambuli Samade Jumela Samburim Dala Nyakparam and Gerate Tarapsha Loif Shatara Pampuli Chatarin Chinayan Patar Tipjana Jaji Tartine Shanchibusim Nabdalashi Daki Teram Churpat Hamchalajab Shangaram Do up the Shaganyatana Warta de Lam Dundu Zananji Hatan Haman Lasogaverji Shanchibusim Choram Bochi Marchi Panamachi Jerji Panyan Bame Parayan Goni Gondam Peverisho Shanchibusim Damam Derajab Shanchibishum Labjurvata Sardinam Jim Zomja the Jilin Maparisho Shanchibusim Wanam Jin Rutuna Tina gone to Visho, Gombo in a cargomba, Simpson and Amla, Tim Jeruso, Simpson and Tamcha the Dita, then Jerusi, and do Tamcha the Tata, over a show of Shanchibas and Waganta Sarjapa, the Tagaganji, Molam, the Perejo, Mahonja, Betchen and Baravanga, Poganda, the Tontos Rutopa, Shirka, Macha, then by Mirams and Durjania Mana, Chimbuka, Turkana and Day, Durji, Jitel Wamsi, Tiji, the Major book, Hunding, I won't get it, not no once in a head, Sanway, Bandra, them Chondo, the Pajarapo, the Chinity, Manager Game, to rip the man, sometimes of the Wamsi, the Tonker, one to the Durji, one, the key, so not on by Chimbong on it. Come in the song of the comes was there a Marpun Condi on like her, but the G Tom Chiliosan, the Perishid, Durji Chabachim Butigina, and a name of Drum Durgim Chotos, Durji Chabachim Bui, not a day where Chimburum Sherpa, Tai Jim de Rokarchan and the Jigom of Shiva, Jimjip, Ramjam Sasamangal, Hatsola, Kipis, and the Subshinjilo, Chotan or Drum Durgim Patat, told me the one of ship, Sodoma, Honsh, Bitchin, Barawanga, Bogranda, Beton Susur Top, Yeshirka, Macha Dibden, Pamiram, Jenny, Durginia Mana, Chimbu, Turkana, and Dai, Durjichum, Jitin, Wamsi, Tiji, the Major Bunkundinga, Wamjaran, and doesn't know once in here, Sama Yeshi, Bandra. Dem Jondo Pajar the Chinate, Manager Game, Torip Shitaman, Chotam Jade, Wamshi, Betonker, one the Durji, Wandaki, so an Antomium by Chimbong, and yet Durjika, Karjita Samayo, Gamlason Gubjeti, comes some was there a Marapon Conde, on like Chabaji, Tom Chaleoshan, the Peripsi, Durji Chabachim Butigina, and a Ningo Drum the Kim Chotoja, Durji Churches of Bachimbu, not a day watching Brutum Shiripan, I give the Tavaro Karajana, Durji Comba Sheva, Jimjip, Jam Sasamarangal had so like Bizro and Dips of Shinjilo, Chotan or Drum, the gay Watata, told me the one of Shabu, so the Mahonja, Bitchin and Barawanga, Boganda, they also through to play Shirk. The Mirams and Need, Virginia Mana, watching Bohan, Shurkana and Day, Durji, Jitin one city, Chazi, and my dear book, Hundinga, one Jeran, and doesn't know once in here. Sanwayeshi, Bandra, them John the Pajar, the Chinate. Manager game, Torip Shitaman, Chotam Jade, Wamshi, the Stonker, one the Durji, Wandaki, so an Antomium by Chimbong, and yet Durjika, Garjita Samayo, Germanism gives Jedi, Kansam, was there a Marpon Conde, on like a better Tom Chaleoshan, the Peripsi, Durji by Chimbuti Jina, and a new drum the game, Chotos, Durji Churches of Bachimbu, and after they were Chimbutum Shilipan, Tai Jim to the driver, Karajan, and the Jicom of Shiva, Jimjip, Ramjam Sasamanga, Lazola. Kibis and the Subshinjilo, Chotan Drum, the game Watata, told me the one that Origin, Yergen of Shansan, Bama, Kesar, Dombola, Yamsan and Chogan, Jebeni, Paman, Johnny, Gisert, Portam, Kandu, Mambo, Goranji, Gisert, the Jeep, Shinji, of Shirashas, Gara, Panama, the Hoy. To the Pingurum, some Jerata, Chaparins in Chimbuk Jetta, Shansamani, Pibjeta, Adaption and Gajan has all, so and the Subshinjiro, the Shana, some watches, solo, some by Ibsen the Pada, Chodan Tamong, drips to the Bangarum, some Jerata, Chaparins in Chimbuk Jetta, Shansamani, Pibjeta, Adaption and Gajan has all, so and the Subshinjiro, Shana, some watches, solo, some by Ibsen the Pada, Chodan Tamong, drips to the Bangarum, some Jerata, Chaparins in Chimbuk Jetta, Shansamani, Pibjeta. The Sing Babjan has on Survandip of Shinjilo, Bishana, Sami, Watches, some by Ibsen, the Padam, Jotan, the Mong, the Bangaram, Sanjeta, the parents in Chimbuk Jet, the Shansam New Pijeta, the Sing Babjan has on Lam, Survandip of Shinjilo, Bishana, Sami, Watches, some by Ibsen, the Pada, the Bangaram, Sanjeta, the parents in Chimbuk Jet, the Shansam New Pijeta, the Sing Babjan has on Lam, Survandip of Shinjilo, Bishana, Sami, Watches, some by Ibsen, the Padam, Jotan, the Mong, the Bangaram, Samjetam, the parents in Chimbuk, Shansam New Pijeta, the Sing Babjan has on Survandip of Shinjilo, Bishana, Sami, Watches, some by Ibsen, the Padam, Jotan, the Mong, drubza chit bangaram samjad preparing in chimbabja the shans many jata dipsim kabjal hazon survan dip subshinji do bishana sami wacha sura sambai bishin badam jodan tamu drubza chit bangaram samjad preparing in chimbabja the shans many jata dipsim kabjal hazon survan dip subshinji do bishana sami wacha sambai bishin badam jodan tamu drubza solan chelam durjam survan tapum tim darso kandani basapshos la taga la pont tabsu de javada chudam jajim pervaram zato solo ajimile tomba neta tim jonga nawam germil zonji gemisala ramdana nam kerem chutna jamtu werin chena sanche balnya davarsta tomba somi de shaja sangina serjim dobchanam sanda huibshaladan chukur samsala dorji le temps j'ai chéri savna shagab dia la janja shagayona nyam shagab derti lomzal nama sirtir trzab jeda qalam baraba yeshi ozra javi kwayan chabani wa jib jeda neftanam chati so pagan so jam sum kurji yom kurja jamba samji jim tamil nam jrab dewan chakwa khwarsulwa jabganan dip dagnyan shimbor sala nyanji chimbo sodana nimi jam zone molam chimbo ngabjatab parkar taram ngam tu shirmar doy tombati ji janab shagam salalo darjana gosama ge solom shilji kanzam chulpa chanda minimbal togmalani bsagade tomani banyanim jurpa tagpo sosrub shag pagdan sosu chi worgi wana tisam sagla ji se rango zabja jachi chuji kurlon saram shogjer yemam chalparam kurta sur jona nam kartavi yeshirka tisam pumjir me param shigmolaje debshi nangore chenji salatun ja charpa zirka tata nawaram zod daki desam sagpa ge sogji khacheban do kanla bhandalat Jalabo Dagparam Nipshan Jan Juji Jalaba Quampan Doperisho Dachani Mim Joam Gumilanama Tiji Dagparabzo Quajanandi Janta Tindere and Chinanam Samanje Nawa Chenya the Chijin Chaninian Dipsara Jam Chokomi the cheaper Yirchi Tarbiani Suran Devana Munje Tamja Chinbu Manila Varab Shanchava Varta Tiji James Sanam Zodam Sanam Jirpada Zam Libus Janjistum Burkale Yashinji Wazarana Soba Nawa Chimbo Dagdang Simjana Tamjadaji Dabat Hamjalab Salajam Takba Chimbo Lamji Yundan Salabjan Dashid Sharmar Dogopo Sanam Barsam Lam Tumbachum Dandi Tibjan Shabada Jumbayan Dabarazopa Sanji Qualjaram Shadan the Balam Sharim Salam Chutur Japsam Chevom Lam Tumbachum Dandi Tibjan Shabada Jumbayan Dabarazopa Sanji Qualjaram Shadan the Balam Sharim Salam Chutur Japsam Chevom Lam Tumbachum Dandi Tibjan Shabada Jumbayan Dabarazopa Sanji Qualjaram Shadan the Balam Sharim Salam Chutur Japsam Chevom Lam Tumbachum Dandi Tibjan Shabada Jumbayan Dabarazopa Sanji Qualjaram Shadan the Balam Sharim Salam Chutur Japsam Chevom Lam Tumbachum Dandi Tibjan Shabada Jumbayan Dabarazopa Sanji Qualjaram Shadan the Balam Sharim Salam Chutur Japsam Chevom Lam Tumbachum Dandi Tibjan Shabada Jumbayan Dabarazopa Sanji Qualjaram Shadan the Balam Sharim Salam Chutur Japsam Chevom Lam Tumbachum Dandi Tibjan Shabada Jumbayan Dabarazopa Sanji Qualjaram Shadan the Balam Sharim Salam Chutur Japsam Chevom Tare do mani mani mahamana zo 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 Taredo mani mani mahamana is what taredo mani mani mahamana is what taredo mani mani mahamana is what taredo mani mani mahamana is oha umani mani mahamana is o mani mani mahamana is o mani mani mahamana is o mani 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 mahamana is o 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 hai devara shapa chirka chandra tam kurta gatse sata shankhamanda chirjem sam jagab zambu chandra tendram konaram dangso jalavara sho nami sarvada thangada bayo bukhum khang be sarvada khang gade saparana man ganga na gausu hai jem dotun kanjab dam nam thawochi risum bami jem jada samchen jel norwa dam da kwadur bhonyeram jem solam choto samdon hanjab jem dotun kanjab dam nam thawochi risum bami jem jada samchen jel norwa dam da kwadur bhonyeram jem solam choto samdon hanjab jem dotun kanjab dam nam thawochi risum bami jem jada samchen jel norwa dam da kwadur bhonyeram jem solam choto samdon hanjab Gandab Zammo Yeshi to Person, Yanti Genamo Kanza Yeshele Dam Jitin Mamo Solom Chotam Chorim Chanim Zod, Hoy Gandab Zammo Yeshi to Person, Yanti Genamo Kanza Yeshele Dam Jitin Mamo Solom Chotam Chorim Chanim Zod, Hoy Gandab Zammo Yeshi to Person, Yanti Genamo Kanza Yeshele Dam Jitin Mamo Solom Chotam Chorim Chanim Zod. Trong trong chém chi chim bù ra la Rabban nam jir dong mon cha cha da Zata je kara trao pa dip jir chim Solam cha tam cha ruim cha nim zut Sha trong trong chém chi chim bù ra la Rabban nam jir dong mon cha cha da Zata je kara trao pa dip jir chim Solam cha tam cha ruim cha nim zut Sha trong trong chém chi chim bù ra la Rabban nam jir dong mon cha cha da Kara trao pa dip jir chim Solam cha tam cha ruim cha nim zut Dam jina chewa chenpu tilim sa Jidi tamam zangam poni so Kapchala samdya tiki so dam chim Solam chotam charim chanim so Hoyan dam jina chewa chenpu tilim sa Jidi tamam zangam poni so Kapchala samdya tiki so dam chim Solam chotam charim chanim so Hoyan dam jina chewa chenpu tilim sa Jidi tamam zangam poni so Kapchala samdya tiki so dam chim Solam chotam charim chanim so Padma Wanga Quanyan Tawachi, Chips and the Pajer boy on the way, Samar Boquaquaram Japan, Solam Chatam Charim Chanim, Shapadma Wanga Quanyan Tawachi, Chips and the Pajer boy on the way, Samar Boquaquaram Japan, Solam Chatam Charim Chanim, Shapadma Wanga Quanyan Tawachi, Chips and the Pajer boy on the way, Samar Boquaquaram Japan, Solam Chatam Charim Chanim. Gong xing yan na zhan ban zam ji jiang Do the peng o zhen wen bei wen za bai ye Chur jiong yeb zhen nor wen tian nan ji Da ge sam tun ma li Nie ren zhe ben zo de Am kor ni chu gen Ka da ri peng a Rang dan mam ge ge ye shi O le ngi long o Kwar dan nam zhan bu dur ji la nam ba Jeb ji yeb zhen nor ben ye de Karak salam zim zam ban che da ye chin chum che de Shag ji ram zhe le wa ma nam Jabni chela chong o la zram mi ram cho Rana dag pa jend lam mi ra sa Ji mi dai pen Jabala Solorava Dever Gom Geder Tobam Power Shenanti Lava Ani Chinera Serni Jan Kama Sayın Cema Hualay Tüyep Şelab Yedalar Manna Cimidem Panzor Jabalak Solarwa Dever Gon Yeder Tobam Power Shenanti Lova Anin Chinera Serbi Jan Kama Sayın Cema Hualay Tüyep Şelab Yedalar Manna Cimide Panzor Jabala Solorva Dever Gon Yeder Tobam Power Shenanti Olom Tarna Lama Ulmi Tilir Cherang Shawani Janya Wintam Yadgan Yashi Jim Dim Lama Dan Kalwan Yamb Shenlav Toba Parasam Jiva Ganda Yang Tam Lama Tam Demi De Chuji Huala Dong Shi De Jiang Sadang Lam Ji Yun Den Rab Zuni Durjim Changa Gompa Nyer Thobo Sho Chum Dan Dim Gombon Jang Huala Yang Shagel Zala Lo Ganga Lo Tu Dim Nye Tim Tara Nye Tara Nam Daga Rab Sadavi Chinyin Dungan Chab Jam Zip Shiren Yin Ji Tikara Lavam Zana Ganda Gab Jabba Zara Mari Antana Bingra Jizarava Dutso Kalava Jim Tarzi and Lodji Ayantana Som Dictara Chitram Yamoyan Nijib Jogdom Zadaja Mari Manzada Dingan and Yagum Janyara Chum Zadarata Nama the name of Jam Sarjim Tarzayan Midzo of Jeti Tavushka Chitagam Jatam Jenny Jam Jim Dalo Mansalam Jahwala Rayanlam Umara Pazanada 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 Umara Mara Patanado, Mara Patanado, Mara Patanado, Mara Patanado, Mara Patanado. Mara Patanado, Sedanan Chedjin, Kerab, Walzaraji, Daglotamig, Mambarab Salani. Padam damju jonle topaye dojur kolpana jendo solo
在这里说一两件事情。
I have a few announcements to make first.
第一件事情呢，
The first one is that
我们今天讲完这一篇吧。
today we'll finish
然后
this
这个为目之境
particular
的话
chapter
呢，
of
下个礼拜
Vimalakirti
没有，
Sutra,
在下个礼拜一
and
开始
we
讲啊。
will pause Vimalakirti Sutra for 1 week and
然
resume it on
后
the week
下个礼拜
after.
的话呢，
So what are we going to do
从
on
星
the
期
next
一
week
开
then?
始应该有
All the
4
way
天的
from
课。
Monday to Thursday,
这
we'll
4天
have
当
4
中呢，现在
classes. For now,
可
I
能会讲
think I will
一
give
个
teaching
修行契要
on
啊，
the 7 points
修行
of
契要。
mind
修
training.
行契要呢，因为我这边呢，现在是自己想讲什么就讲什么，
Now
也没有人
I
说想听这个。
will give teaching
跟
whatever I
藏地
want
有些地
because
方不太相同的，也
it's
没有
not
人
like that.
信
People
什么这
requested
个
me
法的
to
我
give
讲的
them
也不好，
teachings.
所以
And
可能也
maybe
没什么可
because you
听
don't
的。
feel that
我自己在这里后2批我也
I'm
讲
doing a
这
good
个，
job in
然
teaching.
后有人
So
想听，有人不想
with
听，
my
就这样的。所以我
rather
前两
shamelessness,
天
I
说
am
我可
going
能
to
在这个当
voluntarily
中呢
teach
要
the
讲
7
什
points of
么，
mind training.
我也问了一些人，
I
然
also
后
asked
他们
them
都说你
people,
自己看
and
吧。
they said that whatever you want to teach.
这样的话呢，都没办法吧，就是只有
Well,
我想。
if that's
可
the
能修
attitude, I
行
can't
八
really do
修行
much.
气诵啊，就修行
So
气要
I
呢，可
think
能会
the
讲
7 points of training the
大概2
mind,
节课吧。
I will
就
use probably
从
2
宋词上
classes
讲的话，可能比较简单一点，讲义上讲的比较
from
多。以前
the
在05年的时候，我讲
if
过
I
一
give the
遍，
teaching
好
of
像有
this
8节课吧，就是
particular
当时
text
可能视频到
just
现在没有，
from
就
the
是当时刚
verses,
开始
then
的
it
时候
will be easy.
讲过。
I remember back in
这个
2005,
法
I
呢，
gave the
大家也知
teaching
道，就
according
应
to
该
a
在西
commentary,
方，
which
在
was
藏地
more
是非常的。
extensive.
这个应该
Many of
说
you
是新
probably
生吧，
know
就
that
很多高
this
僧大德
particular
都会
teaching
讲那
is
个修行
very
契要。很多修行人呢
Many masters
通过
would
修行
give
契要，
this
就是
teaching.
让自相续的烦恼都完全调整。
And,
虽然它只有7个要点，很简
relying
单，
upon
但
this
实际上呢，在契要
mere
当中有
7
特别多
points,
的
many
窍
people
诀。
could be able
所以
to
呢，现在
maintain
初
their
步
mind.
这个
So
决定呢，就是这种决定呢，自我决定，
my
就是不是那个
primary
大家决定的，
choice
就是自己
that
决
is
定。
based
自己
on
决
my
定
own
的话呢，
choice
这个修行契要可能跟大家
is
讲
to
一下，
give the
然后
teaching of
就
7
念个
points
传
of
承。
mind
因为现在已
training
经10多年了，可
for
能
the
很多
first
人
2 classes.
当时的这种
I
听众呢，现在
think
都
it's been
有
over
些是
10
已经前往
years,
其他的岔途了，
and
就
many people who
是
listened to
有些
this class
是虽然
before,
在这个岔途
they
当中，但是呢，就
probably
是
already
他有
passed
前
away
往那
to
个其
different
他的
Pure
这个
Lands,
国家了。
and
所以说呢，
maybe they went to different
就
countries.
不管怎么
And
样
there
呢
are，people
我
who
想
never heard of this teaching.
用
So
2节课左右的
whatever
时间，就
it
是
may
把这
be, I
个
will
修
use
行
2
契要
classes to
讲一下。
give the teaching of
然
7
后呢，
points
就
of
后面
training
还有
mind.
2节课。
And then the next
2、
2
3节
days,
课
the
吧，但这
Wednesday
个呢，
and
就是也在
Thursday,
自己思考，
I
就
am
是
still
还没有
thinking
确
what
定，就
I
是
want
可
to
能
teach,
会
and I'm
跟
not
年事有
certain
关的
yet.
有些法
Maybe，some
或者是
teaching
跟这
on
个其他的
Pamasambhava or
我再考虑考虑吧，对吧？就
others.
是
I'm
然
not
后
quite sure yet. So
下
I'll
个礼拜的话
think
呢，
about
就是
it
还是有这么
and
几堂课吧，
just to make a
这样的。
an
然后
announcement
明天
in
的那一堂
advance.
课呢，
That is
就可
that
能
I
很
will
多
give
人都
teaching all the way from Monday to
当时我
Thursday.
讲的时候讲的应该清楚了，但是听的时候呢，
Another
有些
announcement
人就
is
是
that
听得不专注，
I
就是最后呢，就是导
want
致
to
这
tell
个
you about the
就里面的
prerequisites
有
of
些内容的
listening
这
to
个
the Wednesday class because there are some
什么误解吧，
confusions.
还是怎
I
么
think
说
I've
没有很好
explained
的
it
去
very
理解。
clearly, but
我的意思呢，
many of you do
就是说
not
是
understand it.
法网有
What I
包
meant
括
is
英文
that
翻译的有100
Paul
份的
Rinpoche
就
give
是一个视频。
the
这个视频
teaching
呢，就是
in
可
the
能会
United
我
States,
提前
and
就
that
是
video
发，也许呢
recording
就是
takes
讲完
about
可以会
100
就是
minutes,
发到那
and
个网上。
it has the
然后
English
这样
as
的
well
话
as
呢，就
Chinese
是
text
如果大
that's
家不愿
available.
意学习
I
这
will
个视频的人
soon
呢，明
post
天
it
晚上的课
online.
不要听，就是
So for
如
those
果
of
在一
you
个礼拜
who
当中就是很
vow
好的去
to
学习，
listen
因为这
or
个是只有
look or
可能
watch
1个
the
小时
video
左右，汉语的
or
话呢1个小时左右，
read
英文翻译也是
the
不到1个小时吧，
text
就凡
within
是
1 week of
英
time
英汉
from the
就
day that I
是
give the teaching,
法文是
then
藏语
you
讲
can
的，然后
attend my
这个英文
class.
翻译的，韩
Paul
文的那
Rinpoche
个
gave
就
the
字幕
teaching
这样
in
的话，这个
Tibetan
呢，
language, and it was then translated
总共
into
是100份，就
English.
是100分钟。
The
100分钟的
subtitle
话呢
is in
如果不愿意
Chinese, so
学习的人不要
together
听的
it
意思，
is
就是这个
100
课前学
minutes.
习也可以，课后学
You
习也
can
可以，
study
凡
it
是
beforehand,
一个礼拜当中要
or
学
you
习
can study
啊，
it
这是一个要求。
afterwards.
我为什么这
So
样呢？
that's
明
the
天晚上也可以说，
prerequisites
主要
of
是
listening to my
这个
class
上师如意宝
tomorrow.
这个离开我们的话呢，现在已经16年了。
Paul
现在很多那
Rinpoche
个
have
包括一些
already
西方
left
的
us
这
for
个
16 years.
一些对高僧大德的这个怀念的话呢，那么
In
通
the
过
West,
各种方式来这个
people
继
would
承
use
就是
many
这个上
different
师的这
ways
个传承啊
to。then
比如说过了
commemorate
这个5
the
年，过了10
lineage
年，
and
过
the
了16 年，
teachings
过
of
了
the
20
master.
年，这个
After
时候他们
10,
有
15,
不同
20
这
years, they
个
use
阶段
different
的，就是这个
ways
推广不同的
to
这个法门来，就
commemorate
是
their
这
teacher
个
by
一直是这个
propagating
上师的遗志呢，就是要这个传承下去，就是有这样
by
的。所以我
propagating
们也应
the
该
teaching of
就
the
是法王如意
teacher
宝曾经
in
在这个西
various
方国家是
forms.
怎么样
So
这仅仅是一堂课，就是当时我们去的是应
by
该3个多
merely
月的时间
listening to
有
this
3个
one teaching,
多月的时间。
knowing
那么
that
这个呢，
back
具
at that
体
time, Paul
就
Rinpoche
是
and
怎么样
the
的话，
group
明
of
天
us
稍微说一下
went
也可以。
to
所以呢，
the West
我向
for 3
那个
months
得
of
到上
time.
师如意宝的教具，
It's just
得
a
到上师
glimpse
如意宝的
of
加持，
what
得到
the
上师如意
teaching
宝的
was.
智慧的
So I
话呢，
really hope
哪怕是
that
短
you
短的
could
一
then
个
use
或者
this
说一段话呢，就是也许可能改变你的一生啊，就这也是
either
有
a
意义的。
short
所以呢，
teaching
我
or
明天
short
的这个课
stanza
呢，
to
就是
commemorate
大概
Paul
这个上
Rinpoche,
师
you'll
教
be
言
so
呢，
that
就是
you'll be
跟法网的那个教
you'll be
言
able
就是有
to
一点
then receive
相
the
关的吧，就是
blessings
做一个开始。
from Paul
包括我
Rinpoche.
们这
So
边
I
的
will give
这
a
个
relevant
讲考的
teaching
话呢，就是也提前做好准备，就是然后
based
明
on
天这个
the teachings from
讲
Paul
完我
Rinpoche.
讲
And
完以
tomorrow
后
we
的
will
话呢，
also
就是应该
have the
要
after
求
class
那
discussion
个就是法
group.
王那个那一堂课
So
讲的内容是
for
什么？
those
就
of you
是这个
who
是
participate
有
in
这
the
个提前要
after
求，就是而
class
且
discussion
应
group,
该
you
是
should then
不
prepare
一定
in
不一
advance.
定要看书，就是应该
You
通过
don't
自己理解来讲
necessarily
的话，
have
就最好的。
to
就是因为我
read
的
books,
去哪
but
里的
it
话
is
呢，
the
就
best
基
to
本上
then
没有什么书稿
understand.
的，没有什么。然后
Because
基本上
whenever
2
I
个小时
give
要讲的，所以
teachings,
我看
I
你们最
don't
多
really
是
have
这个
any
10分钟，就是这个应该没
books
有
to
什么问题
prepare
的，要做
from.
好这个各
So
方面
I
的
think
准
this
备，
is a
好吧？
good
就是
preparation exercise for you.
然后我们这个其他各个地方的话，那就是
For
从这
people
个
from
明天以后的话呢
different
这一段时
Sangha
间要学习这个
around
法王
different
的教言
places, I
然后
hope that you
以
could
后的
spend
话呢，
time
就是
to
很有可
then
能就是
study
把
Paul
这个法
Rinpoche's
王的这个
teaching.
教言呢放在一些考
And
试的当中，
maybe we
有
will
部分的内
include
容
Paul
呢也放在
Rinpoche's
考试的
teaching
内
in the
当中，
class
就是不然的
section.
话。光
Otherwise,
这样所学一学也
if
起不到什
we
么作用，
only
就是我们这个
advocate
上上
for
下下
people
就是
to
应该有这
study,
个互动
you
吧，就是
probably
所以
don't listen to it.
希望呢
Therefore, we
大
have
家还
to
是各个
use
地
some
方
kind of
对
measurements
上师
to
如意
push
宝
you
的
to
这个
study
信
it.
心啊，就将问确
And
知。我
through
相信
such
一个作为
teachings,
大
I
菩
think
萨
it's
的话呢
quite，
虽然有些人
helpful
来
for
讲，
you to
我们
develop
可
a
能没有
faith
因缘，就
towards
是
Paul
见
Rinpoche
到他的这
by
个
seeing, by
就
hearing,
真身也
by
好，这个他的
being
听到他
aware
的
of
这个
him
真正的这个
and
声音
knowing。
但是
him.
现在
I
通
know
过科
that
技的
it
话呢，
is
基本上见
not
到真
possible
人
for
就
those
是
of
或
you
者
who
是听
never
到
met
真
him
神的，
before
没有
to
很大的
hear
差
the
异。
voice of
最后呢，就是得到他的
from him directly, but at least from the technology that we have nowadays, we can still hear the teachings from him and his voice through the recordings and the teachings. The message is the same anyways.
Certain division dimanche la manégie, congotsé, certain dimanche la manégie na, congotsé, tombagne la chambre chez Jean tombagne, monsum de
用没是咱们没把样用是先接，咱们没把我什么的没是的，我把没把用是想是讲，我把没把我什么的没是。我不认得没些把样子，像我些讲，我不认得没些把样我什么的，没些的没多把说是多讲，给予啥个缺我没些的，我说是多讲，咱们现在的，等我说是多讲，咱们现在的，都没把说是多讲，都用很多了，马上喏，也把说是多讲，现在也把样没的。文本说说多讲，理当审计讲，理当审计讲不得，那边没把说说多讲，可不去讲呢，我马上，就没把说说多讲审计可是浪费，样多，这边没把说说多讲可是进了弄了样写的，这边没把说说多讲审计们，用是门不是下雨写的，这边样，这边，这个没把说说多讲，这边，这边样，这个没把说说多讲审计，人家进步蛮多了，那这边说说多讲样多进。你把样没动，速当，两步没把到，这步没把到，那没把手多讲，说那么说嘛也，一些说嘛也，那把用是做上让兄弟一起是往个来当，让兄弟一起了，说把当你比当三节节这个来当那把赢的，这几个在在为哪去了，没不想就上完了。你嘛是来忙内想，地些讲是不是没写到这个基本这样想就上回，说那么的错样都不是这必须的，你嘛是来忙内一些的错样都不是这必须的，地些是不是样没写到，想把钱包到咱必须人，你嘛是来忙内。你嘛是来忙内做，年纪钱包到咱们别些人，地些是不是样没写到，什么用什么不是写有些人，你嘛是来忙内做。上几季去南拉木比学日的，地些是不是样没写说，上几季参用做做不是写有些人，地嘛是样忙内做，他们今天被一些用词做不是写有些人的，地些是不是样没写说，他们可比写日的地嘛写了忙内做写了的，新的特别写日的地些是不是样没写到，上几季像用词都不是写有些人，地嘛是。忙内做上几星期来比写的地些是不是样没写到，上三星期多用写的地嘛写了样，忙内做具体多样都不是单比写的地些是不是样没写到，给在为做的写的地嘛写了样，忙内做给在我写的写的地些。在不是样没写到，我把样子做不是写有些人地嘛写了忙内做，我把没背写的地些在不是没写说，三把样子做不是写的地嘛写了忙内做，好比三把样子好比写人地些在不是样没写，我不是几把人那不是真比写的地嘛写了忙内做，上几季一些我不是写把这个地些在不是没写到，怕了的先比错用是更为写人地嘛写了忙内做。你嘛写了忙内做，地用是做比写的地些在不是没写到，具体哪个能对写的地嘛写了忙内做，年菜为就蛮多比写的地些在不是没写到，具体蛮个哪的比写的地嘛写了忙内做，这个不是具体蛮就是写的地些在不是没写到，咱家单比写的地嘛写忙内做，咱家年比我的这不是写的地些在不是也没写到，具体是咱家。최지스 담집집이 실은 디마실라 만에 손저들 최서 총을 만을 조리 실던 디셰자 버마셰도 대뇽몽비 나 탐지 용스 시비 실던 디마시 만에 손나 탐지 저를 셰유 실던 디셰자 버마셰도 릭지베 테스타위노 샹스상화 디셰자 버마셰장 디마시 라네 버마셰데 데네 샹스상화 남기 남버타리 자파도 무즈바지샤오 기베탄바테도 체지죠 데서 숨버지시天上是生活的这个单班的土呢，参将过来一样的，รับ的干呢，搞当一样一对外接的，中等的làm cho ba当，cho不是个当，上是生活的这个当，去接南庄的làm cho不是于是的，东松的东全部这等级看的，他们是先嘛的，不当我都不。망보 탐자담에 도그 비문을 받zam데 케버시데 좀든디진 코르 저거더가 몸브람베 브람브르시네 좀든디지 잡람 고고 잡음자데 좀든데라랑 스머 코르네 쳇도 조정 데니 상지지 장데네 마르나워르 제르데 까지 이쯤 당지게 직된지 간포바 담지지 저 대런 고도 잡아도 무즈바 집샤 추지 종기 레거 스텝 바고这几天天气有点热吧
I guess it's because it's been really warm in the last few days. I myself and I think that you as well look quite tired. So what are we going to learn today?
相位莫接近是吧
Kritis Sutra, isn't it?
莫接近的话这样的啊昨天我们前面已经讲了那个
Yesterday, what we talked about was
不尽于为不住无为
it was
这个
do not
当
exhaust
时那
the
个象棋菩
conditions
萨的
and do not
象棋世界
abide
的
in
菩
the
萨们要回去
unconditioned.
的时候在
The
佛陀面前
bodhisattvas
求法
from
然
accumulation
后佛陀
of
就说了
fragments
两
Pure
句不
Land,
尽于为
they were
不
about
住
to
无为
leave the Saha
不尽于为呢
world
就
and
是昨
request
天
that
我
the
们
Buddha
已
to
经
give them some teachings, and the Buddha gave
按
them
照那
these
个
two
我们现
sentences
有
first,
的
and
可
that
能有
was
这个
do
47
not
种法
exhaust the
就是已经
conditioned
讲
and
了
do
呢
not abide in the
然后当时那
unconditioned.
个唐译里面呢有这个55种法啊就是唐译里面有
We
55
then
种
studied the
法
47
然后那个
Dharma
智者大师
teachings.
呢就是他
According to
那
the
个分
Xuanzang's
的时候呢就是
translation, it
40
was
种法就是
55.
可能有些分法都
According
有
to
点
Master
不同
Chi Yi, it was
不管怎么
44
样呢就是我
kinds of
们
Dharma
昨天也
teachings.
讲了这个有
Anyhow,
为的
doesn't
这种
matter
善
how
根
it
呢不
was
能破坏
categorized or
不然的
accounted,
话
it,
如果
the
我们
gist
一直
of
用
the
一直
teaching
用
was
就
that
是
we
没有
should
在这个集散法的话呢
accumulate
到一定的
merits
时候全部
instead
用尽了
of
啊就是
use up
就全部
our
都已经用
merits.
完了就是所以呢我们这个修学正法的时候呢
The-
就是世俗的善法就是千万不
We
能
need to practice
放弃
and
就
we
是心无
need
放逸
to
不是众善
then
这个已经讲了
accumulate
那
as
么今
well
天呢
as
就是
do
第二
not
个方面就是因为这个这两句的话
do
呢
not
就是在这
avoid
个
any of the
佛陀最后
conditioned
解释的时
dharmas.
候呢就是第一个
Then
是
the
不尽
next
于为
one-
就是讲了40多种法然
The
后呢
first
就
one
是
was
不
do
住
not
无为呢
exhaust
就
the
是也讲了
conditioned.
这
The
个
Buddha taught us
大概我
47
们前
kinds
面
of
呢就
dharma,
是
and then
有这
do
个
not
16 种
abide in the
法吧就是或者说是按照这个
the Buddha
唐译
then
的话
taught
呢就是
16
大概
kinds
有
of Dharma
21种
teachings.
法就是
According
就
to the
今天我们
Xuanzang's
这个
version,
第二层内容
it
的话呢
was
就是讲了这
21
么
kinds
多
of
然后
Dharma
第三层内
teachings.
容的话呢
That's the
就
second
是
tier
这
of
个
the
不尽于
teaching
为
from
和
the
不住
Buddha.
无为
And
呢
then
就
the
是就
third
双层
tier
双
was
性
that
就
do
是这
not
两者呢
exhaust
就
the
就合在
conditioned
一起
and
来
do
就是
not
做接受
abide in
就
the
这个我们这个
unconditioned
版本当中待会
together.
儿可以讲
So
有
that's
这
the
个四
third
段
tier.
有四
So
段的
over
那么
there
其他
there were
版本的话
about
呢就是
4
也有
parts of
16
it.
段
And
的就是
in
有这样
other
的那么
editions
这样
there
的
were
话呢
16
我们
and
现在呢就是讲
different
第二层内容
categorizations
就是
of
说
it.
这
So today
个
we're
不
going
住
to
无
talk
为的
about
这
this,
个
the
道理
second
就是
tier,
那么
which
何
was
谓那
do
个菩
not
萨的
abide
不
in
住
the
无为呢
unconditioned.
下面就开始
How
讲了
could the
就是第一个
bodhisattvas
呢
not to abide
就
in
是
the
说
unconditioned?
这
The
个
first one
为
is
修学
that
空就是不以空正
it is
下面
to
都开始从这个
then cultivate
三
the
阶
emancipation
三
of
阶托门
empty
吧
without
三阶托
taking
门
the
呢
empty as
我们
one's
经常讲的这
realization.
个
Over here
气
it
呢就
begins
是
to
空
talk
性
about
的
the
应无
three
相的然后
emancipation
呢
gates.
就过
The
无眼
first one,
就
it
是
talks about the
无
entity
动
is
啊
empty
就
and
三万没办法这
the
是什么办没办对应该这样的那么这个三阶托门的话呢就是这个菩萨
And then
就
the
是怎么样
characteristic is signless,
对这个空性法门
and
的
the
修持呢就是首
fruition
先是他
is
会这个修学空
unconditioned. So
空
those
性
are
就
the
一切万
three
万就是没有
emancipation gates.
任何的
So
这
the
种
first
实体
one
的
is
就
the
这样的一
empty
种空性法
without taking
但是这
empty
种
as
空
one's
性呢就是
realization.
不是这
This kind
个
of
声闻和
empty
或者我们世界
is not voidness that is devoid of anything, devoid of the four elements, and not the kind of emptiness of the Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas. Do not then grasp onto emptiness as a part of the insights and realization. Yes, the entity of phenomena are empty, but the bodhisattvas would not abide in such entity, such kind of nature. The second, it says that it is to cultivate the emancipation of signlessness and wishlessness, which is the third one. But over here, although it is then written in one sentence, we need to then separate it into two, because the first one, it talks about the characteristic is signless. When bodhisattvas, through their studying and through their practice, they should know that the cause is signless, is devoid of character. Your cell phone plays a love song, isn't it? Who was it? You didn't turn off your phone? Turn it off, okay? Or we will be listening to this beautiful song instead of the teaching, although it is signlessness. But when such signs and characteristics appears, it is still quite attractive.
它并不是使这个不像这个圆觉声闻缘觉一样，就是注意一种这个无相的这个状态当中啊，不是这样的，就是应该虽然它通到这个学呢这个无相就是本体无相的，但是呢不是以这个无相就是作为这个它的这个正我啊，就是最终的话呢，就是也是如果是无相作为一个这个正我来这个执着的话，那就是这也是一种相啊，就像《金刚经》里面讲的，凡所有相，皆是虚妄，就是那这种相呢也是虚妄。那虚妄是不是存在呢？虚妄也是不可存在的，就是所以呢，这也是不可能就是得到的。那么第三个法呢，就是那么就是菩萨这个修习无作啊，就是修习无作的话，那就是也就是说这个过无愿啊，就是因为我们一般呢就是对这个。将来就是获得的如何的这个果报啊、果位啊，当然就是这方面就是有一定的这种愿望，对吧？就是有一定的这种誓愿，但是这种誓愿呢，就是实际上也是无所可得的啊，就无所可得的。所以菩萨呢，就是并不是以无作呢，就是作为这个正我哈，就是以无愿呢，就是作为一种正我，因为他真正的得到这个果的时候呢，就是对这个果呢，就是毫无这个希求啊。
They have no wish, they no longer have any wish or hope for fruition. They no longer then grasp onto any signs. So this three talks about these three are the three emancipation gates. According to Mipa Rinpoche, he talked about the four emancipation gates. He talked about the unconditioned dharma that is luminous, which is the fourth emancipation gate. Anyhow, the first three talked about, it seems that the bodhisattvas have already realized all of these, but they do not abide in the empty or signless or in sign or wishlessness. The fourth one is that it is to cultivate non-activation without taking non-activation as one's realization. The bodhisattvas, they do not cultivate non-activation. In the sutra, it talks about every dharma arises based on causes and conditions. Without causes and conditions, then there's no dharma that could then activate or arise. The bodhisattvas already then understood the non-activation or non-birth of all phenomena, but they do not abide in the extinction that is devoid of cause and condition. The fifth one, it says that it is to contemplate impermanence without having aversion for roots of goodness. In fact, from here, it talks about the impermanence, bliss, the solid existence of self, and purity of and the purity. So there's four wrong views. The first one, it says that to contemplate impermanence without having aversion for the roots of goodness. Shravakas or Hinayana practitioners, once they contemplate and once they realize all the phenomena is impermanent, they are they change moment to moment, just as how the 4 seasons changes moment to moment, and the causes and condition changes moment to moment. Once they understood that everything changes from moment to moment, and then they would start have this aversion arise in their mind. It happens to people nowadays. Once they understood that, oh, everything is impermanent, there is no need for exertion, there's no need to do anything about it. But for bodhisattvas, they're not like that at all. Although they would then contemplate on the inner impermanence and outer impermanence, they would then contemplate on impermanence. And then they would still accumulate all the good roots, virtuous roots and merits. They do not have any kind of aversion, and they do not feel tired from accumulate the virtuous roots. Dapoa said that as long as we can, when we then have the mind of impermanence, when we give rise to the realization of impermanence, then it is like someone dangerously wounded by an arrow, and it appears to that person that there's no time to waste. So that's the beginning sign. And in the middle, the sign is that you could become really focused, just like you should meditate on death without thinking of anything else, like a mother whose only child has died. For people who practice really extensively and very well on impermanence, they practice very focusedly. And then at the end, the person who realizes impermanence would know that there is nothing left to do, just like a shepherd whose flocks of yaks have been driven away by his enemy. Maybe because lots of people do not know how it feels because you've never heard yaks or cows. But I myself, this is a very good metaphor. It was once that I was herding the yaks and cattle, and then I lost all the yaks. I couldn't find them, and I was stunned and didn't know what to do. Of course, at that time I was too young and I didn't know the realization of Ati. I was not aware of that, but I think maybe that was the moment of realizing Ati. In the Vajrayana teaching or in lots of practices, it is that you do not abide in anything but mind arises. So when bodhisattvas attained the realization of impermanence, they still do not have aversion for accumulating roots of goodness. When people hear about impermanence, it seems that they do not feel interested in good or bad anymore. All they can think of is that, well, this is impermanence, then what's the meaning of it? They may feel quite despair because of impermanence, and they feel impermanence is bad news. But that's not true. It is because of impermanence, then you should put all your exertion into practice in virtuous actions and accumulate merits. That's what you should do, to then invest your time into practice. Over here, it is to contemplate. The word contemplate, sometimes it means contemplation or to practice, or the other hand, it could mean realization. That's how in Tibetan language, as well as the Chinese language, it has the subcontext of realization as well, instead of only contemplation. It also means to realize, to understand completely. And it has also the meaning of contemplation, to think, to practice up on. The sixth one is to contemplate worldly suffering without being tired of samsara. When sentient beings seeing all the sufferings that happens in the world, the suffering of change, and so on, all of those kind of suffering, then people could then simply have this mind of wanting to get into extinction. When they see that there is afflictions and suffering, this samsara, then they have great aversion in this saha world, in this degenerated world, in this world that's full of defilement. All they want to do is to enter into distinction of affliction and suffering. However, bodhisattvas are completely not like those Hinayana practitioners. The more they see that sentient beings are suffering, the more they have the intention to help the sentient beings, to alleviate the suffering of all the sentient beings. So that's the mind of bodhisattva. They're so courageous. Do bodhisattvas have suffering and pain as well? Yes, before they attain complete realization or Buddhahood, they will suffer as well. But they have no fear to face such suffering at all. They're really courageous, and they would be tirelessly enter into samsara to benefit sentient beings. The seventh one talks about no self. It is to contemplate no self while teaching people without tiring. The Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, after they contemplate non-self, or after they realize non-self, they will not continuously to teach others. They realize non-self, and then they enter into the emptiness of non-self, and then enter into the samadhi of extinction. But bodhisattvas, once they realize non-self, the bodhisattvas would continuously and tirelessly to teach the people, to teach the sentient beings, to benefit them. After realized this emptiness of non-self, emptiness of self, then there is no more fear. Because in our world, the fear and the suffering comes from self-grasping. According to Sutra of the Heap of Jewels, it says that in the truth of emptiness there is no fear, neither is there the sinking into samsara. Being attached to the characteristic of self and phenomena results in fear and sinking samsara. The sentient beings in samsara, they would feel fear, they would retrogress, they have all kinds of afflictions and suffering. Why? It is because that they have great grasping towards self. Once you break this solid self, once the sentient beings feel that others are threatening this solid grasping towards self, they feel fear. But the bodhisattvas, they continuously, constantly preach the Dharma without fear and without tiredness. In other translation edition, where it says that it is to contemplate no self without then giving up the self. Unlike how the Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, they would give up this flesh body. The Shravakas and Pratika Buddhas, they would then humiliate, they would view this body as impure, they would then purposely ignore this body. But the Bodhisattvas not like that. Bodhisattvas would use this dream and illusion-like body and liberate the dream and illusion like sentient beings. So, according to different translations, there's different explanations as well. The 8th one, it is to contemplate extinction without undergoing or pursuing permanent extinction. The 8th one, in different yanas, they pursue the permanent extinction. They pursue permanent peace. And after they attain this permanent extinction, after they attain such state, then they will continuously to abide in this state for kalpas, for eons even. But when the bodhisattva, they contemplate extinction, they receive such realization of this samadhi of extinction, yet they would benefit sentient beings in the post-meditation or post-samadhi of this extinction in the way that it is non-dual between samadhi and post-samadhi. They would then abide in this. They would not abide in the extinction that is beyond thinking. Rather, they know that there are so many sentient beings who are who are the old mothers of theirs, and they do not have they do not want to enjoy the bliss for themselves and abandon all the sentient beings. They'd rather stay in the samsara and suffer with the sentient beings to liberate them than enjoying the bliss of extinction for themselves. That's the 8th one. And the 9th one talks about it is to contemplate transcendence while cultivating the good with mind and body. In other yanas, once the practitioner realized the transcendence, they would then abide in such transcendence without cultivating any more good with the mind and body. But bodhisattvas are not like that at all. What they would do is that they would use their mind and body and dharma, their senses, the 4 kinds of mindfulness, or according to other sutras, it talks about the desire, the afflictions, and all of those. In fact, the bodhisattvas already then realized the emptiness nature of those, and then continuously to practice good virtuous deeds with their mind and body. So bodhisattvas, they attained really high realization. They attained the realization of no birth and no death of all phenomena. But they would still manifest in our samsara in front of the sentient beings as a way that they're still accumulating virtuous deeds, such as prostrating, such as circumambulate, such as chanting mantra, such as then practice meditation, and such as supplication, such as chanting, such as give teaching of the Dharma. So their body, mind, and speech would continuously to practice the virtuous deeds. The 10th one, it is to contemplate the absence of any refuge while going for refuge in the Dharma of goodness, which means the bodhisattvas, they do not abide or they do not, then or there's the absence of any direction or absence of any refuge place. So at first there's no place to start and there's no place to abide, there's no place to go. While they still going for the refuge in the Dharma of goodness. That means that they understood that there's no going and no coming, yet they still then practice good dharmas or virtuous dharmas, the 10 virtuous dharma, or uphold the Pratimoksha vows and the Bodhisattva vows, and practice virtuous deeds in this world. During our study of this teaching, I really want to encourage you to remember what Padmasambhava said. He said that doesn't matter how high your view is, your action, the way that you choose to practice or carry out your action should be as fine as a flower. So bodhisattvas, they've already attained the understanding of no coming and no going, no good and no bad. But their practice is also going for the good dharma. There are people who then only talk about no coming, no going, no good and no bad, but their realization and their actions are really not there yet. There are people who do not have any faith, and they would talk like that. That's understandable because they don't know. But there are people who then have faith, yet they still talk and act like that. Then that is really already past the line. You've already crossed the line. And you should feel really ashamed of it if that's what you do. So what you should do is that your view should be high and your actions should be just as the previous masters, or at least as the normal people in this world, to be very careful about your actions and the consequences of your actions. Bodhisattva, when he came to Tibet, he taught on how to then discriminate from right and wrong in terms of the actions. Lots of masters are in the past, and now their realization have already passed what we can imagine, but their actions are still very, very careful. The next one is to contemplate the birthless, yet to bear the burden of all sentient beings using the Dharma of birth. The Bodhisattvas, they've already know that all the phenomena is birthless. It is emptiness. It is not born at all. But they do not stop there and not doing anything about it. Not only that, they would bear the burden of benefit all sentient beings use the Dharma of birth. As what we said yesterday, what is the Bodhisattva's main responsibility? The responsibility is to then bear the burden for all sentient beings, the burden of the sweet burden of sentient beings, or carry out such responsibility. According to ornaments of the Mahayana Sutras, it is said that for those who are the highest of beings, carrying on their heads the great burden of sentient beings, it is not right, and it is quite shameful to travel leisurely for such bodhisattvas, since they and other beings are fettered by all kinds of bonds. Their diligence should be multiplied 100 times. So the bodhisattvas, in order to benefit the sentient beings who are still being in the fetters of samsara, they should be very diligent. Many people who studied the ornament of the Mahayana Sutra, you probably feel very similar. You probably have some kind of insights about this. if you have already give rise to bodhicitta and study Mahayana Sutra, if you're very lazy and if if you still have lots of afflictions and not practice, then it is quite shameful. For we cannot match up to the bodhisattvas such as Avalokiteshvara or Manjushri, but at least what we should not do is to avoid the kind of actions such as flattering or frivolous language and slandering language to create chaos behind other people's back and so on. This time, in the past few weeks, when I went out to different places, I told the sanghas over there, I said that if you do not get along with each other within the sangha, then I won't come and give you teachings anymore. As mundane beings, of course, we have afflictions. That's normal. But if what we do all day long is only talking about other people's faults and complaining about others, so that is really not reasonable as a person who've already tread on the path of Mahayana. My aspiration, I made a vow that for places, for people in different places, if they don't get along with each other within the sangha, then I won't visit them anymore because I feel really tired. I have to then be very mindful of what this person feels about the others and so on, and I have to be very mindful about each and everyone's expressions. It's very tiring. Maybe the people over there, they feel that it is better that I don't visit them, so maybe that's what I will do to fulfill their wishes. 100 yojanas far from you, maybe that's better. So even if I go, I will go to the city, but still 100 yojanas away from those people who quarrel within the sangha, and then I'll leave that place after. Anyhow, do not then complain and whine and blame others. If you've vowed to or aspired to serve the sangha, at first you may have really good intention, but there are things that happens without your expectation. But even that happens, do not then create disharmony within the group, and do not make evil aspirations within your mind. I've never forced anyone to serve the sangha. It is the best for you to make aspiration and then fulfill your aspiration. But if you can't, you can disappear. Many people disappear within a group all the time, so you can do that. In lots of the sangha, people do not talk about practice, do not talk about benefiting sentient beings. All they talk about is blaming others. They only see the sangha group as their own platform. They take it as their own, and then that creates lots of problems. I am not a bodhisattva, but I've then at least making such a vow of being a bodhisattva. So I think we should then contemplate upon this, that you've all made a vow to arise the bodhicitta and benefit sentient beings, this bodhisattva vow. So try to practice the meaningful actions to create a harmony and to create benefits among the group and for one another. The 12th one is to contemplate the flawless or the flawless yet not eliminate the flaws. the bodhisattvas, they contemplate the dharmas that is devoid of all the defilement, yet they do not eliminate the defilements, because it is very difficult to liberate and help the sentient beings without. According to the commentary of the Vimalakirti Sutra, it says that the bodhisattvas already understood that all the dharma is non-defiled, is devoid of all defilement, yet they would manifest in a way that they have defilement to tame the sentient beings. So the bodhisattvas, they've already realized the flawlessness of a dharma, but they would manifest in the way that they have anger, they have afflictions and defilements, so that they can tame the sentient beings, and to understand it in such a way it is reasonable. The 13th one, it is to contemplate the absence of any practice, yet to teach sentient beings using the dharma of practice. They've already then realized the level or attained the level of absence of any practice, of no action. But they would still teach sentient beings to use the dharma of practice. So for people who want to liberate and help the sentient beings, at first you should at least understand emptiness. You should have some kind of realization of emptiness. Even if without a complete realization, at least you should have some, at least you should have a firm understanding of the correct view through Madhyamika, such as stated in Madhyamika Avatara. And then when you see sentient beings who experience limitless suffering through the 5 skandhas, the bodhisattvas will be able to use such dharma to teach them with the dharma of practice. The 14th one is to contemplate emptiness and non-existence, yet not to forsake great compassion. They've already understand the non-existence and emptiness, the bodhisattvas. However, when they see that sentient beings are still dwelling in the samsara of suffering, then they could not forsake all these sentient beings who are suffering because of their great compassion. According to Treatise of a Courageous Man, it says that by hearing the myriads of suffering in this world, even a stone, even a rock would be melted. How could people with heart not generate the mind of compassion? So bodhisattvas, when they see the sentient beings suffering, the myriads of suffering, especially when they suffering, which are numerous. Yes, on the surface, we can see that, oh, this person dressed really nice, or the other person dressed such a luxurious car, and oh, the other person, he runs such a successful corporation. Everything looks really beautiful on the surface, but inside, deep down, each and every sentient being suffers tremendously. And at that time, you will be able to then try to help them, especially when you have some understanding of emptiness from the Dharma teachings, and you really wish genuinely for their happiness. There are people who are like that. Just as yesterday, what we said, we need to then practice profoundly and practice the Dharma, study the Dharma in depth, and cultivate good qualities. For such kind of people, their practice will become increasingly excellent, and for such kind of people, they will increasingly cultivate their strength and skillful means in helping sentient beings. The 15th one, it says that it is to contemplate the position of correct Dharma, yet not to follow Hinayana. The Bodhisattvas, they've already realized the no birth and no self. But they will not then follow the Hinayana. They will not then fall into the fruition of extinction. The 16th, it is to contemplate the empty falsity. Well, in fact, this one is a bit different. It is to contemplate the empty falsity of Dharma, which are without solidity, without selfhood, without subject, and without characteristic. It is not to consider merit, meditation, and wisdom to be in vain when one's original vow has been fulfilled. And practice a dharma such as this, one is called a bodhisattva who does not abide in the unconditioned. So first of all, you have to know that the dharma, or the bodhisattvas know that the dharma is empty falsity, it doesn't have any intrinsic existence, which are without solidity, without selfhood, without subject, and without characteristic. And this kind of teachings, before the bodhisattvas fulfill their original vow, they will not then stop practicing merit, meditation, and wisdom, and not consider those practices as being in vain. According to this is Kumarjiva's translation, and according to different editions, it is rather a bit different. The other editions, they talk about the solidity, without solidity, without selfhood, without subject, and without characteristic, are rather very similar in different translations and editions. But the later part, when it talks about consider merit, meditation, wisdom, not consider such to be in vain. In fact, in Tibetan translation as well as in a few different translations, it talks about how the perfect contemplation as well as natural wisdom and empowerment to receive empowerment to receive natural wisdom and abide in the Buddha nature or the Buddha family is in addition to the previous three. Different editions have different explanations. So for those of you who don't quite understand, you could then look into the Xuanzang's version of translation as well as the Sanskrit version. It is a bit different. So this one is a bit different than the Xuanzang's version. And Xuanzang's version is very similar to the Tibetan translation. And you could look into it as a reference later on. The next one, it then talks about do not exhaust the conditioned and do not abide in the unconditioned. It is the combination of both. Over here in the Kumarjiva's translation, it has 4 parts. The first one, it talks about in order to complete merit, one should not abide in the unconditioned, and the second one is that in order to be complete in wisdom, one should not exhaust the conditioned. So in order to complete merit, one should not abide in the unconditioned, because once you abide in the unconditioned, then there is no way to accumulate merits. Just as it is said that because of compassion, one do not abide in the 3 existent. One do not abide in the nirvana.
就是所以不住无为，就是因为具福德或者是方便的缘故不住无为。然而具智慧的缘故
And because of wisdom, in order to complete in wisdom, one should not exhaust the conditioned. As it says that because of wisdom, one do not abide in three existence. One who do not have complete wisdom, then one would be quite fearful of the phenomena which is in nature, dream, and illusion-like. Usually, we don't really talk about it in such a way. The second part, I will explain it according to Kumara Jiva, and later I will explain to you why it is different. So in order to achieve the great sympathy and compassion, one should not abide in the unconditioned. In order to fulfill one's original vow, one should not exhaust the conditioned. That's the second one. The previous one, when it talks about merits and wisdom, it talks about benefiting self, and the second part it talks about benefiting others. And then it talks about in order to the previous one, including the merit, wisdom, compassion, and original vow, talks about benefiting self, and then the second part talks about benefiting others. In order to accumulate the medicine of the Dharma, one should not abide in the unconditioned. In order to bestow medicines according to the needs of sentient beings, one need not to exhaust the conditioned. Because if you exhausted the condition, how could you pass the teachings to the sentient beings who needs it? That's the third one. And then the fourth one talks about in order to extinguish the illness of sentient beings, one should not exhaust the conditioned. The sentient beings' illness of afflictions should be cured by the medicine of the Dharma. So the Bodhisattva has to then not exhaust the conditioned. Otherwise, how could the doctor cure the patient? If you need to extinguish the illness of sentient beings, you should not exhaust the conditioned. And in order to understand the illness of sentient beings, you should not abide in the unconditioned, because if you abide in the unconditioned, you won't be able to understand the illness of sentient beings. The Kumara Jiva's translation has 4 aspects, but according to Qianlong Emperor's Tripitaka, it has in fact 17 pairs of stanzas. So I think it is the best for you to then read according to the Qianlong Emperor's edition of Tripitaka. Right now, the version that is translated into English as well as the one that is used in Chinese version is according to Taisho Tripitaka.
好像刚才那个背不住什么大慈悲
all the way from in order to achieve greater sympathy of compassion, one should not abide in unconditioned. From there, it has a paragraph. In fact, a few more stanzas in between, and around the medicine part, it has then some more paragraphs, some more stanzas added in between. In Tibetan, in Sanskrit, and in Xuanzang's translation, as well as Zhitian's translation, Have you written down? I think they're quite stingy of showing you this, all of these stanzas. They just show you a glimpse and then took it away. The volunteers, they're already quite tired, and if I do not praise them, they'll probably no longer want to provide their service anymore, and then they will become a pratika Buddhas, hiding in their cocoons. Anyhow, my point was that at this time we used the Taisho Tripitaka that was then edited by scholars, Buddhist masters, for over a decade of time. It is renowned and recognized worldwide. At the time, I thought it was quite authoritative. And throughout history, the Taisho Tripitaka is rather very famous, especially in Japan and internationally, I have to say. Taisho Tripitaka is the compendium of, or it is based on the Tripitaka Koreana, and then on top of that, they then added the Kaiba's Tripitaka that is carved on wood blocks in Sichuan province, many wood blocks with the Dharma carved on it, as well as Chidan Tripitaka. Back in the 60s, the Taisho Tripitaka was then re-edited. But now when we look at this, I think Qianlong Tripitaka's translation or edition is probably more accurate, because according to Qianlong Emperor's Tripitaka, it includes the 17 pairs or pairs of stanzas. But it's quite interesting that Master Song Zhao then used Taisho Tripitaka's version rather. Master Song Zhao's version did not have the 17 pairs. That's rather long. Maybe it is because Qianlong Emperor's Tripitaka and Master Song Zhao's version are two different versions. And Taisho Tripitaka, when they pick their version, they use the version that Master Song Zhao used, which have less stanzas. I didn't have a lot of time. It is really that due to the lack of time, I didn't look into it too carefully, but I have great interest in it if I were to have some more time to look into it. It seems that the Tibetan Tripitaka is more, well, let's say, careful in terms of choosing different versions. Back in Qianlong Emperor's Qianlong dynasty, in Qing dynasty during Qianlong Emperor's time, Dampa Tseren, he then took charge in building Dege Dharma text printing house. So that was in the 1700 and 1729, something like that. So I think it is better for you to study the Qianlong Emperor's Tripitaka, or it is better to pick the Vimalakirti Sutra based on Qianlong Tripitaka's version. Later, if I were to have another opportunity, I would teach it based on Qianlong Tripitaka's version. But of course, I'm already so aged, it is very difficult to say that if I were to have another chance to teach this wonderful sutra. But maybe next lifetime, we'll see. The translation is most of the translations or most of the versions, including the Sanskrit version, Tibetan version, Xuanzang's translation, as well as Zhi Qian's version, they all have the 17 pairs that same as the Qianlong Emperor's Tripitaka. Tibetan Tripitaka, they used 20 to 30 2 to 3 decades of time to then edited the 20 to 30 volumes of the Dharma text. That comes to 200 textbooks. What they did was really quite admirable. What they did was that they compared different editions, and then they put all the versions according to Durga's version. It is so and so. According to Lasa's version, it has one word wrong, but they kept that word, but then they kept a little note underneath. And according to Beijing's version, it is so and so. So I think this is really a better way of working with the text. I was then looking into Agama Sutra, where it says it has where then I noticed that there are some differences, so I put some notes, and I think keep those notes is quite important, because it could be very useful for the scholars in next generation to study it. It provides the resources for them to study. Otherwise, when people just delete and omit based on their habitual patterns or their concepts, I think this is really not good to change the Dharma texts. Anyhow, according to the Tibetan version, the Durga's translation as well as the Qianlong Emperor's Tripitaka is very similar. I wanted to give the teaching based on that, which has 17 pairs of stanzas more, but I think we don't have enough time. Anyhow, I then give you this opportunity to study by yourself. In Qianlong Emperor's Tripitaka's version, it has 17 pairs. In Xuanzang's version, it has 14. In Tibetan's version, it has 16. But the content is very similar. Anyhow, my hope for you is you should then study in more depth, so that you'll be able to understand the complete meaning of the sutras. The next one, it says that this is then called. In the previous one, we've studied the do not exhaust the conditions, do not abide in the unconditioned, do not exhaust the condition, and do not abide in the condition, the three aspects of it. And over here it says that all good sirs. Then Buddha said that a bodhisattva who cultivates this dharma does not either exhaust the condition nor abide in the unconditioned. This is quite timely, this teaching, because there are people who do not care about the conditioned. They only care about the ultimate teaching of emptiness. And there are people who don't care about the teachings of emptiness. They do not care about the unconditioned. They only care about the conditioned and the relative world. I myself, whenever I study this, I feel I've gained a lot through studying and teaching of this. There were practitioners who told me that I've gained so much through the studying of this sutra. I met a little child on the way who was lost. He said he wants to go to the mandala. I said, no, it's the wrong way. You should go to the other way. And then I asked him, what are you doing here? He said that I'm here to travel. I asked him, what did you do yesterday? He said, I listened to a class by Kempo. How was the teaching? I asked him. He said, it's okay. And then I asked, how does he look like? He said, it's okay. He's okay. So I was conversing with him all the way, and then eventually pointed the way. And then I met him on the way into the shrine hall. I asked him, do you recognize me? He did. He apparently did remember me, and he was a little bit embarrassed, I think. Anyhow, he said, I taught okay, and I was a little happy about that. Maybe he fully understood what it means of neither exhausted condition nor abiding the unconditioned. Otherwise, he wouldn't say that it's okay. Anyhow, when those bodhisattvas heard the explanation of this dharma, they were all extremely happy, and they scattered a host of wonderful flowers of several colors and fragrance throughout the Trimegachiliocosm, making offering to the Buddha and his teaching and the bodhisattva, which are the three jewels of this world. They bowed their heads to the Buddha's feet and explained at this unprecedented teaching, saying that Shakyamuni Buddha is able to perform the skillful means of this excellent practice in this world. That's how they then praised the Shakyamuni Buddha. And this kind of action of Shakyamuni Buddha is so admirable. It is so unfathomable. Saying this, they suddenly disappeared, and then returning to the other country, returned to their pure land of accumulation of fragrance. So they went back to their own country after receiving the gift of Dharma, the Dharma of do not exhaust the conditioned and do not abide in the unconditioned. So for those of you, wherever you live, when you listen to this teaching, you've already received the Dharma gift that is full of blessing and strength from Shakyamuni Buddha, from this pith instruction from Shakyamuni Buddha that is short in language yet profound in meaning, so that you will completely transform through your practice as well as your mind. So from here, I really hope that you would practice well. We'll stop here today.
Tatamam Jelba, Million Tagaba, Tagata, Manimam Jelmila Chuparasho. Thai Kata, Lata, Love Janakala, Telavama, Tata, Maye, Kanamda, Doagan Jida, Naman Chatambara, Tamchada Kata, Daki Chuptanando, Tisham Paralashan, Raptuna Deb, Shanchabesim, Namiam Jidma, Dibagana, Majapara, Jirpata, Teta Mali, Yosef Shavarasho, Litam Yulmom, the Jelly, Namalim, Tulajan. Nam Saya, Chatara Panamochi, Machapab Jana, Yerda, Nam Karatopa, Metershit. Jangam Jundam Shonam Chatam Barang and so do Nalarapta Shavarab Shil. Deva Tagalam Doakim Goda Jam, Doatam Jadalana Pambarab Shit. Shanchip Sharpa, also Zopshili Jan, Simjana Takam Shotam Tambaranji, Zambo Sharpa Tagana Raptuna Jam, Maom Karapak and Dab Shutparajir. Dakab Shuratam Sombarakam Shurapa, Tetatan. Tagatam Droparasho, Litang Namadana, Simji Jam, Shurpa, Tagatam, Olam, Chitavshed, Daglam, Pambaram, Dulapur, Topo, Tagab, Zambo, Shilparata, Tumbanam, Tetagatayan, Tagatam, Chalparasho, Tetagab, Dakin, Namaya, Yadamarion. Sanjim, Dijim, Kurvim, Gumbo, Naman, Gumsama, Dagdab, Dakin, Delavata, Mawam, Karapak, and the Macho, Teta, Layam, Churpaja, Cheribja, Jaravanam, Jetam, Chums and Jam, Shanchip, Shurpak, and the number of Shili, Zambo, Shurpan, and Berib, Jawaya, Mawam, Karapak, and the Shilapurja. Chalpatam Chalatayam Korana, Sunama Yeshi Tagna Mazalamni, Taptang Shirabatam Zanam Tarada, Yundan and Kanjim of Zalam Zotajer, Darchitana, Daniela Song, Jantara Samjim, Chav Sardinam, Sardi Jewinam, Shipala, Shanchip Shalpam, Shajam Tower. Tetramalin Tamchilla Shosaya, Jazaman Chulati, Zaman Salanjalaje, Sardi Jamso, Janam and Jamso Tam, Karapa, Jamsuru Chujaraptamji, Sonchi and Laga Jamsu, Decaleji, Jaravak and Yan Laganam Tabam, Doak and Jim Sambach of Janaya, Sardi Sonla Tagatamji Parabji. Tisam Sharp, Jaratam Jalatam, Kurulum, Saranamaraptam, Korwaye, Tetagaya, Soyam, Bazalala, Bloy, Tobjib, Dagajaraptanji, Maom, Garpatam, Chilim, Jiperia, Kachi, Chikim, Dagjan, Jiperabja, Kayam, Karpati, Saman Sarateta, Kachin, Chaji, Jina, Jiperabshet, Tisam Sharpa, Maya, Sangeka, Tetakachi, Chilam, the game. Tata Teta Kanam Shayala, Gemara Jerpanam Taratop Jimji, Kayanti Samantakam, Jam Kolapa, Tetan, Dalachitan, Mumbarab, Tetara Malim, Shurnam and Tamchadata, Jaravata, Janama Kolamji, Kayam Mapshin and Jitin, Dunmanam, Abshanchivir, and Berim Sanjam, Korodom Kor, Yanganam Deepa, Rapta, Jam Tartunam, Gumbo, Kandi, Tonta, Kandam Yervi, them to the Tonamada, Kani Goya, Takapat, Tata, Kanda Yondan of Sharpat, Namada, Kanda Chapa, Shamba, Takast, Kani gave him Sunamant of Tagatam, Chapame, Parakirpa, Yeshit of Sherabat, Tamzan and Doptaki, Shanchapat, Namayan, Tagadaparashit, Ligi, Donamayon, Takshirija, Newmont, Namakandam, Jumbarapshit. The Jeto Namato Miller of Shirija, Zambo Sherpa, Donna Zoparabja. Jamsu number Tapshirija, Simchana Jamsu Tana number Chunama Jamsu Raptam Tom Shirija, Yeshi Jamsu Rapta Toparabshit, Sherpa Jamsu number Tapshirija, Mulama Jamsu Yonsa Zoparabshid, Sardi Jamsu Raptam Chupshirija, Karpa Jamsu Machup Jalparabja, Kaya Tixam of Sherpa Jaravaya, Shanchip Sherpa, Mulam Shitanam. zambo should be shan chip on DNA. Take an embarking my name's operative. Jarva can dear to get our back, Uncle Monik and Debs on Jeepsha. Keep a day down some but of jet bursher, gave and the Tagatam Chadaratavno. Litang Artan Yirjan, Dagajan, Shurpan, Dagajan, and Mayon Tagapa. Moab Zambum, keep and Chimdawa, Tim Derp Dagajan, they down some bursher. Kanigi wabs on board the pubs, Jam Holatin, Molam of Jelpurb, Mawam Karapak and the Macho, Tape, Shava, my name's Opurb. Sharpatanam Sayuda Makiraji, Yundanam Jams of Zomi Parasho, Shapat Melepalan in Asia, Tetagam Charpatam Chalam Savarabja, Namkim Tartu Jirpachats and Better Simchana Malim Taya Tipjanante. Chatamali tam you monta cheraba, Daka molamantaya desam. Taiba, Brinchinam Gendim, Jelavanam Lapad, Hatam Yev Devan Chonamaja, Jangab, the near Karparam Pavavi, Kangi over Jerpon, the two names, Shanchibum Chuku, Jisura Mosha, Lanchi Zamayam Tarpan Tipanam, so Namatambam Chotam them Jeru, Kangi Zomption Mulam and the Taibi, Tinang and Son Tancha the Power and Jer, Tinab Jopong and Bar. Now I'm tired, they are them near them. Tetaganya param yella devaram so Matsin Daria, Tetagalia Parao, Kandab Zamputi, Chandra, Tetagaram Paramatawa Tepsinamjer, Samiling about the Panama, Kangam, she won't give she patag, Dave Zampu, Shapam, the Judana, near the Mali, also Sharamjer, Yishi Danam Zitan, Sanamada, Rita, Katawanam, Tam, Dambaramjer, the Tamar. Tamambuti Mataban, Jitin, Sambo, Kanam, Chuparamjer, Shanchipusha, one drawn the Dimnirim do, Sony, Simchin and Pamshir, been there stay, Shanchipus are dim, Corlor at the Kurub, the Namade, Tam Chipat, Hamchadaptad, Kayam Zambu, Shupum, Olamanda, Chawatan, Tuntamelonaya, then Amberamamba, Sandim Chenam, Shanchipun, Chola, Sumnium, Abshiraji. Wow, Chitterin Timbadan, can the Zambuti on Dibjanande, that I can give some dog of Sherer, give and the Tagatam Chadaratavno. Tis the Mapshapa, Yaratam Chidajim, go I can lamb Chotam, Gabadi, Daka gave us a van, the Canajam, Zambo, Jobsherapta, more of you. Danam Chimim, Tipsher, Japana, Japatam, Jadatanam, Shamsadate, Monsamana. One time, Timtone, they were Janji Jantaraptando. Tirson in the Mulam and the Tagajan, Tamchadaman, Muntam Jirvarasho, Tetagamalim, the king also gone, Jitin to the Simpson and Pambarabja. Jalavan, Jim Korabza, Gavatir, Pamut, and back and Zilichi. Now I'm the Jeremy, Monsamanda, Longton Bayam, Ducky, Tirtusho, Tirnab Ducky, Longton Raptavani, Jabam, Bushi, I'm Jai. Simjin Amla Pamba Mamboja, Zambu Ship, Monumentum Bay, Giva, Chonzal of the King, Chapsaba, Tinam Drove, Molama Givanam, Kachi, Chiki, Tamchalam Jervarasha, Kayam Zambu Ship and the Mobim, Sunam Tai, Tamba, Counter, Do have the Madam Chiver, Shawanam, or the Quagami Panira Battle Parasha. Molam Jelpun, the Tagam Chakra, so I'm time, do I can laugh and she did ya. Can the Zambo Jambu, Jean Traverti, Nanson in the Mali, Stover. Sandir, Kasamam Nip, Shanlavatam, Chunilam, Jirdim Bush and Lada, Gimdanam of Shadam Bush and Lavaji, Chataram, Modam and Deparation. Taniata Pansan and Jaya, Agua Budana, so hard. Dami Diji, Durji, the 真正接着的不那么着，你这不啷不个人忙头啷当的不会接不起，几面的盆子我下不来，说了完的不提接的光不生了半娘那些，提了几等的不的神接了，说了的当的米让自然个面的，看着不如金子半半着不啥什么家了吧，养从城里进给那个神情的婆婆西北说的门面的真事，我问娘大俺这大不也是那俺唱着的上错上了木几不娘的当中kim几阵，完了说了完的不个子们的多几些说的，陈林在边上见可乐却不念着人这样当自上买，当着旁的让的想着就讲你家的我听着的什么的，他的那当中讲出你们听都不有面了他什么的不的门。这把金子把它加了进，把白什灯，我的面子白眼的不着急，你们的勇敢上大的，是了这不下雨真的我的，他的那是我们的人的不扎西手。
顶礼大恩上师，顶礼贵堪布堪姆，贵道友晚上好。那深修善。